Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for the third episode of Project Fairlady. If you remember where we were up to in the last video, we were just about to pull the front bar off. Well, guess what, folks? Bar's off! Wasn't he that Russian male ballet dancer? Now, let's have a bit of a look at what we've got going on here. And it appears, folks, that my predictions were correct. The fabrication work on these intercoolers on the front and a lot of the work here does appear to have been done by an incompetent 12-year-old with a pair of tin snips. So what I'll do, I'll take the camera off the tripod and we'll go in close and have a bit of a look. Alrighty, well, let's have a look at this first intercooler ducting here. Yeah, fucking sharp edges on everything, folks, and just a real mess. Doesn't fit properly. And just a really, really bad design. I actually struggled getting this front guard off because to access these two bolts here, you normally go through the blinker and you've got access straight away into there. But this was blocking your access to these bolts, so you had to sort of go in through the back of the guard, which is really, really awkward to do. There's just no room to get, you know, a ratchet spanner or anything like that in there. And for that reason, driver's side and passenger side only had one nut. This inside nut wasn't on there because they couldn't get to it. And the whole thing, folks, it's really poorly made. It's a bit of a disappointment, really. I was hoping for something a little bit better than this to be in here, but mate, it is what it is. Realistically, I probably would have made new ones up anyway, but you know, what do you do? I was still hoping for something a little bit better. But it's pretty filthy in here, folks. It's super manky. We'll move along. We've got this sort of a ram's horn style thing created with the air cleaners here. There's obviously one feeding into each turbo. They've got these really tiny pod filters on them. They're very, very small. They're literally half the size of the pod filters that I have on the Nissan 370 GT. They are absolutely friggin' tiny. Now this pipe work, they've painted it up so you can't see what it is. And you can see all this atrocious welding that's been done on it. These things are actually just pieces of exhaust pipe that's been welded up. They've got sort of a double sleeve arrangement on the ends because they obviously don't fit inside the piping. So they've sleeved it with some pipe and then they put that pipe inside some other pipe just so that they can make it sort of fit. Now these things, as I say, they're just mild steel exhaust pipe. Take the air cleaner off and put your hand up inside there. There's bulk surface rust on the inside of these pipes. So that potentially could be flaking away and going into the inlet on the turbochargers, into the compressor. And believe me, folks, you don't want anything going into the compressor. It's just not the go. Good turbo life. Discovered this thing. Didn't know this was under here. It's someone's half-assed attempt at a catch can. You know, it's just got really pissy lines going into it. They're all sort of just shit. The thing's held on with cable ties. It obviously doesn't work. It's dry as a bone inside. Apart from the carcass of a gecko. Where are we? See if we can get the gecko carcass. See him in there? There we go. That's been in there for probably bloody God knows how long. Anyway, dry as a bone. Something that just doesn't work. So I don't even know how the plumbing's been done on this thing, folks. It's just, you know, I haven't got that far into it. It's just a piece of crap that really needs to go into the bin. They've obviously haven't plumbed it correctly because it's not doing anything. Taking the front bars off has also exposed the sort of arrangement for these HID low beams that are put in. We've got ballasts just floating around in the breeze here. They're not sort of tied down or, you know, they just found a spot there where they thought they could sit them and they're just rattling around in there. As I mentioned earlier, this HID low beam conversion seems to be a piece of crap. The headlights are actually open on the back side, so the headlights will get water in them and dust and all sorts of shit. So yeah, obviously another thing I'm going to have to do is rebuild the headlights. I'll probably, you know, separate them and repaint the insides anyway, and at that stage I'll take care of anything that needs to be done. Whether I can put better lenses in the projectors or anything, I don't know. I did that with the Skyline headlights. I bought all new lenses for the projectors and stuff, and it really made a big difference. So I'll see when the time comes what I'm going to do with these headlights. folks, if anyone's got any ideas out there, if you've got a Z32 and you've done stuff with the headlights, leave a bit of a comment for me, guys, just to sort of give me a few ideas. Yeah, the whole thing's pretty manky. This is the oil cooler that's on there. It's a bloody small oil cooler, and it's just mounted really poorly. The top mounts don't go anywhere, but the lower mounts that actually hold the thing in position are really something to behold, folks. I'll get the thing up on the hoist, and I will show you these lower mounts, and you'll just piss yourself at how shitful they are. You can see the blow-off valve in there. It's a GFB. Bloody something or other. There's one there, and there's one buried in amongst all the manky shit down in that side that you can just sort of see the corner of it. All in all, like in the front here, it's just kind of full of leaves and dirt and dust and shit. Very, very messy. In this front bar area here, you can see all the gunge and shit that's on the bottom of the headlights. And over here, we've got another one of these fucking Bob the Builder intercooler ducts, which are just a really nasty bit of gear. So I'll put the hoist up, folks, and we'll get to enjoy the splendour from underneath, so you get a look at it from a different angle. I think that's a bloody great idea. Alright, I'll get it up in the air. And here we go, folks, the view from down under, which I guess is pretty fitting for the Aussie shed. So straight away, here you go, bottom of the oil cooler mounts. Isn't that something to behold? We've just got a couple of bits of 20mm by something or other mild steel, not painted or anything. Bird shit welded to the front cross member on both sides with a bit of a twist in it. And that's what holds this oil cooler in position. Some old wrapped lines there. They've just used push lock hose on it. You can see it's all perished and starting to split. It's all pretty oily. I don't know what the friggin' hell's leaking, but all this stuff's just garbage, mate. It's just going to have to come out. Another sort of view of these lovely intercooler ducting. You can see the horn up here, not connected, no wiring going to it. Horn on the other side, not connected, no wiring going to it. So the car definitely hasn't got a horn, and it certainly doesn't give me one either. And you can see there's lots sort of going on under here, folks. It's just super, super manky and super messy. So all of this is going to have to come out. You know, obviously, well, the whole car is going to be stripped, as I mentioned, but you know, you just get to sort of see it, what it's like beforehand. And I'm not sort of dissing the car, folks. I expected it to be this. I've done enough sort of complete rebuilds of cars like this in my life to expect this sort of thing. It's just par for the course. It does have a varying degree of how shitful they are, but generally they're never great when they're this old. Unless it's a really pristine example, which you probably wouldn't be rebuilding then, you know. I did notice one thing when I was around here sort of getting this apart. This is your overflow bottle from the radiator, and the previous owner did mention to me that it used to, you know, there'd always be 1 or 2 drops of coolant, regardless of how the thing had been kind of driven. And you can see this thing actually has coolant in it. It is connected up and still works. And I actually grabbed it because it was sitting a bit wonky, and went to kind of straighten it up, and my bloody thumb went through it. It is just, you can see here how brittle this is. It's just, oh, it's just, you know, and that's what happens with old plastics, folks, on cars. They might seem that they're, you know, sort of reasonable, but that's usually what will happen, particularly from anything that heat cycles like this. That's usually the case, and you can see it's probably been leaking. I don't know whether that was the source of the sort of coolant that the owner was talking about, but, you know, it's kind of typical for this sort of thing. So obviously, you know, a new one of those is going to be ordered, along with all these piping. All this old intercooler piping's just rooted. You'll notice they've put nice silicone hoses in the engine bay where you can pop the bonnet and show all your mates. But where it really matters on all these pipes underneath that you don't have easy access to maintain them and all that sort of thing, they've just put the old original friggin' perished rubber pipes back on there, and they are just hard as a rock and absolutely shitful. So it just goes to show, folks, but a lot of people, when they build cars, they're really just trying to do certain amounts of it to impress people rather than just do the job right. They'll tend to cut corners on areas that people can't see, and this is a perfect example. Like someone's forked out a fair bit of dough for these side mount intercoolers, and they're a nice bit of gear. And then some fucking has gone and built these air ducts and everything on there, just out of crap too. They're too thin. It'd be lucky to be 1 mil. It's probably 0.8 mil or something aluminium sheet. And it's just fucking garbage, mate, the way it's been done. It's just absolutely terrible. It's asked about face too, with things like the opening in the bumper is kind of here, you know, so just the way they've done it, they haven't been smart enough to work out how to overbend it and bend the brackets to the inside so that you'll get, you know, better alignment with the airflow and all that sort of stuff. They're just, I don't know, like I say, a dead set looks like a friggin' 12-year-old child with some tin snips has made them. So what I'm doing, folks, I'm just sort of getting things apart. As I said earlier, I'm continuing to strip the easy stuff down to get a bit of a feel for everything, just to see where I'm going. I'm currently working my way around, just straightening up pinch welds and things like that. You know, you can see how folded over this seam is along this side compared to the one here, which is still a bit fucked up, but nowhere near as bad as this one over here. And I'll take you underneath the car, folks, and I've been working on this pinch weld here, which if you remember from the previous video, this was folded completely flat up against the underside of the car in this section. It was just really, really mangled. I've been working on this for probably a couple of hours, just trying to straighten it all up. It's just about there now. It's pretty straight on the outside as well. I'm just sort of cleaning it up and just sort of manipulating it to get it all straight, and then I'll just reproduce the roll on the bottom because they have a bit of a rolled edge on the bottom, but I've had to completely flatten that out in order to be able to get tools in here to try and get this sort of straight. And these are the tools I've been using here, folks, to do it. So you can see it's just various pliers, lock pliers and hammers and punches and chisels and cold chisels, and just basically anything that you can get to belt in there that'll give you the desired effect. Like, for example, in this section of it, folks, I've used a socket extension bar, and I've just been driving that with a lump hammer, which has got a lot of torque behind it, just to try and straighten these pinch welds out, because they are quite stiff. But obviously I didn't start with this tool. I started getting chisels and things underneath that folded edge and just levering it to slowly sort of bend it down. It's a very slow process, and just kind of slowly, evenly bending it down, and then using lock pliers and bending it even further to get to a point where you can then get something like this in there and start working it with a hammer. And then just eyeballing it, you know, sort of eyeballing down here, seeing how straight it is, looking at other bits, and, you know, and then working it from the outside and the inside, and using some hammers and dollies and stuff on it, just to sort of work it until it's pretty good. It's getting there now. It still needs a little bit of work, but it is fairly sort of straight. And all the pinch welds on this car, folks, along the bottom, they all leave a lot to be desired. You can sort of see through here, it's all sort of folded up. You can see how manky looking this bit here is. It's all just, you know, bent and mangled. Oh yeah, look at that. Like, it's all, you know, there's nothing super hard about it. It just takes time to get all this stuff sorted out. You'll never get everything lined up properly on the car unless you go to this effort and get everything nice. Like, this guard's out of alignment on the top, and a lot of it's to do with this. So this guard, obviously both guards are about to come off. That's where I'm heading by getting all the front off. So pretty soon I'll get all these inner guards out and get these front guards off, so I can firstly look behind them to make sure there's no build up of crap in there, or if there's any rust that we have to take care of. And once again, also straighten up all these pinch welds on the bottom, so that when we get paint on things and put them back together, it all just bolts back together like it was a new car. Same issue over this side. This is the front guard area. This is a pinch weld here. You can see just how mangled this sort of whole area is. The bottom of the inner guard's even all bent up where the guard's been sort of smashed up in this corner, and the sort of mangled mess there that's, you know, but that's the way it is, folks. I expected this with the car. You know, you just got to take the good with the bad, and at the moment I'm just going over all the really rough stuff that's really obvious when I walk around the car. I'm just sort of walking around and just going, oh yeah, alright, I'll grab a tool and I'll just have a fiddle with that. And that's all you do, folks. You just got to keep working. just keep working on shit, you know, like do it at your own pace, do what you want when you want. I have an overall goal in mind, but I chop and change between what I'm doing all the time. If I get bored of something, I'll just move on to something else, you know, just to kind of keep myself happy with what I'm doing. You can see I've pulled this cover that was half hanging off the fuel lines and off this battery cable that's been badly put through here. And I've been looking at the fuel system, because you can smell fuel under the car here. And you'll remember I was talking about this surge tank that's been mounted in here. You would have seen the lack of bolts in the top. In this thing up here, that's where those bolts were meant to go through. When these clowns did these high cast arms, you can see they've used the mount here on the bottom, so they've taken this off. And it either doesn't line up, and they've had this out, and they just haven't given a rat's ass. They've just put it back together half-assed. But you can smell fuel under here, and I'm really not liking that. And this whole arrangement with all the fuel lines and all this kind of thing, it really is a bit of a piece of crap. Whoever's done it has sort of had a bit of an idea, but they just haven't had any idea of how to kind of finish stuff off properly. And what you do when you're doing things like this. I'll just give you a quick squiz. Here you go. For example, up there you can see two of the fuel lines. They've just been cut off. Now I think one might be returned to tank or something, because they've got rubber hoses here. They're returning into that swirl pot, and they're also overflowing back from the swirl pot back into the tank and stuff. Like, the whole thing's a pretty bodgy arrangement. So I've got to get rid of it. This red wire here, it's coming from the front. It's an individual wire for the fuel pump. I'd say it's just a wire that's hooked into a relay on the front of the vehicle that gets power at ignition and powers up that fuel pump. I don't know at this stage whether there's a relay on it or what it is. It could be that relay that's dangling in the engine bay. I don't know. But I'll sort it out. It's obviously got to have a whole new fuel system for it. So it looks like I've got a bit of work cut out for me with these pipes that have been cut off and stuff. So what I plan on doing, folks, is actually disconnecting all this, because the car is just going to be moving in and out of the shed. It can do that on the in-tank pump that's in there, and at least that'll give me the opportunity to reverse all this crap that's been done, and just have the in-tank pump supplying the engine again. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get the thing on boost and you know, put your foot into it, but you know, the car's in pieces. It's beyond that now. This thing will never see the road again until it's actually finished being rebuilt. So having it run just on the in-tank pump is absolutely fine. That way I can get around all this crap that's been done here, work out what I need to do to repair it, get hold of a decent fuel pump hanger and pump set up for it, and you know, redo it all sort of properly, and maybe run some new fuel lines to the engine bay, some AN lines or something, you know. But like I say, you can smell fuel. It's just fucking dodgy. I don't know what's been done, and until I look at each individual part, it's just a bit of a guessing game, folks. So I'll carry on. I'll just continue working on these pinch welds and stuff. See here, it's all just bloody ripply and whatnot, and you know, they start to bend over as we go back into that front guard area. So I'll start working on those. Even here, you can see this. It's like that's what it's meant to look like. And even as you go along here, it starts to fold up where something's been put under here, and it gets worse as you go along, and you can really start to get into these mangled bits. But yeah, as you can see, back to the one that I'm repairing. It's not impossible to fix them up. Like I say, it's not a huge amount of time I've got in that. It's just a matter of frigging around with lots of different tools. This is why you need a lot of tools, folks. And I'm not a mechanic by trade or anything. I'm just a bloke with a workshop who's been collecting tools his whole life to be able to do this sort of stuff, you know. And how I got into cars, folks, when I was a young bloke, for a start I had no money. I couldn't afford to get things fixed, and when people that I knew did get stuff fixed, they were never happy with it. So I just thought, well, I'm going to teach myself how to do everything, and I pretty much have. Oh, here we go. Look, we've got a metal rod that joined these two bits of the exhaust system together at some point, but it's been cut at some stage when they've possibly had the exhaust out. I've got no idea what all that's about, but this exhaust system's probably going to be going to the tip when I build a new one, but exactly when that happens, I don't know. It depends on what stages the car goes through in the teardown process. I'm currently trying to get my head around how to keep the thing mobile as possible. I want to keep wheels on it so I can push it in and out of the shed for as long as possible, which I'm sure is going to be ages yet. just there's so many small things to take care of before we're sort of talking bodywork and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I'll keep going, folks, and I'll turn the camera back on when I get a bit more. Like I say, I'm going to be getting this rear bar off. So the Russian ballet dancer will be making another preview there, Mr. Barzov. And I'll pull a lot more of this crap out of the front. But you can see the crap that's fallen out, folks. There's just piles of this shit that's like, this is like serious dirt. Like, this has just been inside those lower front guards. Same on the other side, just leaves and crap. Fortunately, this car was obviously from inland and not near the coast, otherwise it would be rusted out, which is fortunately what seems to have saved it, because there seems to be lots of potential for rust in this vehicle, but fortunately it's been pretty much unscathed. So yeah, I'll carry on, folks. I just thought I'd show you that before I cleaned up the mess. It's a constant battle. You make a huge mess, whatever you do, and clean it up and do some more and clean it up and do some more and clean it up. Anyway, I'll carry on and we'll see how we go. And I reckon I'll probably have the front guards off the next time I turn the camera on. So we'll have a bit more to look at. Bloody beauty. Right, folks, a bit more progress. As you can see, the front guards are off. Headlights are out. Crash bar's off. And various other little things. I'll take you around the back shortly. The rear bar and everything's off as well. We'll have a bit of a look around there. Fortunately, everything seems pretty good behind the front guards. There's no rust in the bottom of the guards. There was just heaps and heaps of dirt and crap in there. And obviously those pinch welds were really, really badly folded over on the bottoms, which were causing the lower section of the guards not to line up properly. I had to actually unfold all the pinch welds with pliers and stuff so I could get to the bolts to unbolt the guards. They were that sort of mangled. The heads of the bolts were folded up in amongst the mangled steel. But overall, everything so far is pretty good. There's a bit of a bench section over there that's been folded over where that secondary oil cooler is there. I don't know why, but they've folded the front of the panel over to try and fit the oil cooler in better, which is just really silly. It's just really silly the way they've done it. Anyway, I've just about finished all the work on the pinch welds now, folks. I've actually got them to a point where I've got rust converter on all those sections now. I've just got to put a little bit of paint to give it a bit more protection. Until all the final bodywork sort of goes on. What I might do, well, actually before I lift it back up in the air, folks, I'll take you around the back and we'll have a bit of a look around there. Most of it up this end was pretty neat, folks, other than the fact it was really, really dirty when I pulled the rear bar off and everything like that. So it's had a massive clean up just to get it looking sort of half decent. There was some accident damage hiding in behind the bar here. This lower rear quarter panel was quite sort of pushed in behind the front bar there, but I've pushed all that back out now and just sort of dressed it up a bit. It's hidden in behind the bar, so you'll never see it, but it is very close in shape to the other side, which is completely untouched. It's got quite a lot of shaping in it. It still looks like it's kind of been pushed in, but it hasn't, folks. That's the sort of standard shape that it is now. I made up some templates of the other side which isn't damaged, and I just reversed them and was using them to check the shape along this side here when I was kind of beating it out with blocks of wood and hammers and dollies and stuff. So yeah, it'll get some paint and a final sort of a tune-up when the actual bodywork begins. So even though I am sort of doing a little bit of bodywork, folks, it's really just big bulky stuff, you know, that I'm coming across as I'm doing things. And the reason I'm even doing anything with all that sort of stuff, folks, is just to lessen the load when the time comes to do the actual bodywork. So stuff like these pinch welds and, you know, knocking out a really big dent like this and all that kind of stuff, it just helps so much when the time comes to do the actual bodywork. And so basically all you're left with at that stage is just the real fine stuff, you know, just small dents and a little bit of fine tuning and all that sort of thing. So I'll lift it back in the air, folks, and I'll show you how the pinch welds and the bottom of the guard areas and all that sort of stuff turned out. Alrighty, let's have a little bit of a look at this. So this is the rear of the driver's side there. It's looking pretty good now, pretty straight. Looks pretty reasonable on the inside. These corners here were bent up as well. They were sort of folded up as well as being sort of folded over. This side here is all looking pretty good now. You'll remember this lower section here, this is the bottom of the driver's side front guard area, pinch weld, how badly damaged all of this was. You'll remember it being just a mangled, crumpled mess with the bottom of the guard bolted to it. And you can see now it's nice and straight. All the way here, all this was sort of squashed up and squashed right in, folded up against this. And that's sort of the back side of it. Looking pretty good, nice and straight. Bit of surface rust gotten off here. As I say, it's all been treated with rust converter and everything now. It's just got to have a bit of primer underneath it before it gets, you know, the proper finish put back over it all, sort of thing, you know. Go this side and have a bit of a look. Same deal. This was quite mangled. You'd remember this as well from the previous footage. These all had to be unfolded, as I mentioned, to be able to get the guard off to begin with because they were in such a mess. At least, folks, as you can see, none of the body shell in this area has any rust, and this is quite often something that happens here, is this whole section here will rust out because of all of the crap that gets trapped in here. You saw earlier the piles of leaves and stuff on the ground. That was out of these sections, and what that does is this whole piece here kind of rusts out, you know, but this is absolutely perfect. So I'm very happy about that. Once again, you know, spots where there was a bit of light surface rust that I've just been cleaning up and putting rust converter on, which will then get the proper underbody finish on it, because I'm going to probably paint the whole underneath of the car. Yeah, it's all looking pretty good. This is the inside of that pinch weld that I was working on earlier along here that was really badly folded up. It's spot on now. There it is there. So it looks pretty good. It's all dressed nice again. I've got the bottom edge sort of rolled up and all that sort of stuff. This back corner here was in the same sort of predicament as the other side. This corner had been sort of pushed right up and was rolled in, and it was also rolled under and sort of flattened out. But again, it all is pretty damn good. So what I might quickly do, folks, is get this back down and throw the front guards back on, just with a couple of bolts to hold them in position. I'm lacking storage area in the shed here for stuff too. Safest place for them is to probably put them back on. So and I also need to test the fit up of how they line up as far as in and out in this section, and also how well they line up with this body line on the door here, because yeah, they were just absolutely terrible before, but most of that is due to this mangling that had occurred all under here. But now that's sort of back to factory position. It should be pretty good. Right, so we'll get this sucker back down, eh? Just quickly before I pull this down, folks, since I last spoke to you, I've actually been over this again. I've given it a coating of POR 15, so it's just completely sealed up now. So good stuff, the old POR 15. So that's over the top of the rust converter. It's on the inside as well. There, all sort of sealed up. Very nice. So I just sort of show you that before I go covering it up with the guards. I've also done the bottom of these front guards on both sides, wherever there was any damage. They've had a coat of POR 15. Obviously the real paint will be going over the top of those, and some chassis black over that section on the car. But yeah, I had a few moments to kill the servo, and I thought, I might as well do that. I came across the cam while I was looking for something else. I thought, oh, that'd be perfect for this. Just sort of help keep it all together and keep it all nice and sealed up until we're ready to get a bit of paint on everything, you know. So I'll get this thing down and we'll drop these guards on. So I'll just throw both these guards on, folks, drop a couple of bolts in them, and then we'll take the hoist back up and have a look at the bottom, see how it bolts together and how good our alignment is on the body lines on the door, and also the in and out in relation to the flushness with the door and the bottom sill. So I'll get these on. Well, so I was just thinking, I hope the bloody POR 15 didn't end up locking all these threads up, because it can do that, you know. It's bloody Yeah, I think it has. Oh, that one's alright. Ooh. Just hang on. I'll have to just quickly run and tap through these, folks. The poor 15 has just locked all the threads up. So I did try to get it everywhere on these things, including in on the nuts that hold these lower bolts in. All the silly things to do. Once again, folks, this is why you have to have tools, to be able to just go over to your bloody drawer and pull shit out, instead of going, oh no, what am I going to do? You try to jam a bolt through there and end up fucking up the threads, and you know, set yourself up with a few basic things, you young fellas out there. And then you're not going to be relying on these slimy buggers to bloody steal your money from you. You can do a bit of work yourself. Now, what's our alignment like? I'm going to have to throw myself in front of the camera, folks, to get a bit of a look at this. Tell you what, doesn't get much better than that. So we're batting 1 for 1, folks. We've got spot on alignment with our body line there on the door. We are nice and flush. That's looking real great. We're in a little bit, we're in slightly down here, but we're flush with the door there, which is sort of how I want it. It's good enough for now, certainly. We'll get that bolt in at the top and see if that sort of pulls that down. That might pull this in, and then we can maybe slip a washer in between there or something, just to get it really perfect. But I'll tell you what, folks, that's pretty good. If you go back and look at some of the old footage, you'll see these guards here were sitting out 6 or 7 mil, easy, maybe even 10 mil. It looked like I don't know what it looked like. It just looked bloody terrible. You could see something was going on. Anyway, let's go and do the other side. I reckon I'm going to be in the same boat with these threads. So I might just see if I can get a bolt to hang in there. Yeah, no, I've got no chance. I'll have to hold it and tap it at the same time. If only I'd thought of this first, folks. Well, sounds like I can hear a bit of rain outside, folks. It's middle of the night time now, and we're just getting that summer evening rain coming through. Everyone in the house is safely tucked up in bed. Mrs. Aussie Shed's probably dreaming of the great times going out and cruising in the cars with me, and everything's happy in my little neck of the woods. So, get this one in, but I must say, folks, it's looking pretty good here too, which is a big thing for me, considering how friggin' terrible this was. Oh yeah, that's good. That'll come up. We'll go in. That's good. That's pretty spot on, folks. It's down maybe 1.5 mil, 2 mil maybe. That might actually come up with that top bolt, because it's got a little bit of movement there. When it's held up, it's pretty right. But as you can see there, we are nice and flush Once again, if you want to see what this looked like, go back to earlier on in the video where I show this before they've been taken off, and they look absolutely terrible. You can see the Paw 15 right along the sills down here, and this is that really long sill that I repaired. It's looking real nice. It's all coated up now. As I said earlier, the actual finish paint will be going over the top of this, but this just gives us a really nice rock solid coating underneath as a preparation for our top coat. Well, that's not too bad, folks. I'm pretty happy with the progress in this episode. Having those front guards all sorted out and having those pinch welds all finally finished up and everything again, that's just really nice progress for me. So I think I might leave this episode here and we'll move on to some other stuff in the upcoming episode. So where I'll be heading with that is I'll still be on the sort of bottom side of the car. I might attack the front chassis rails where they're coming through and they have some damage. And I noticed a little funny spot that I want to have a bit of a look at on the lower rear quarter on the driver's side here. And whatever else we come across. Actually, I can think of another thing, but I'll show you that next week. So anyway, folks, thanks for spending some time here with me in the Aussie shed. It's always good knowing I got you guys out there keeping an eye on me. So if you like the video, folks, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, remember to leave a comment, and I'll bloody well see yous on the next one. Cheers.